Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Now today's video, we're gonna be installing this CSF 6.5-inch stepped intercooler, FTP Motorsport Charge Pipe and Boost Pipe, and we're also gonna be painting the V-brace in this 435 F33. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm Steve and you're watching F33. Now if you find this video helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. As usual, we're going to be putting links to all the products in the description as well as all the tools used to do this install. Now I want to give a special shout out to Keys Motorsports for sending out this CSF intercooler. Keys Motorsports is a great place to get stuff for your BMW, whether it's a 435, 335, really any BMW, they're gonna have parts for it and they're gonna be good quality parts. They're not gonna be any cheap knockoffs or anything like that. It's gonna be stuff that they would actually install on their cars. So check them out. Again, link down below to their store. I'm also gonna link to their channel. They have an awesome channel with other install videos, doing pure turbos and all kinds of cool stuff. So thank you, Keys Motorsports. Thank you, Brian, for sending this out. So I've had these parts sitting in my garage for like 2 months. I was supposed to install them back in February, but you know, with everything going on in the world today, family stuff, work stuff, I just haven't had time. But they've been sitting in my garage saying, install me, Steve, install me. And I just haven't had time. So, but today is the day, very exciting day. We're gonna be doing these upgrades. So I wanna go over, before we start installing, why do we even wanna do any of this? So let's start with the intercooler. This intercooler is substantially larger than the OEM one. The OEM one is basically, if you cut off this top part of the intercooler, that's about the size. I think it might be even a little thinner. I'm not positive. The fin design is also quite a bit different. This is a lot denser. So you're gonna get a lot better cooling of the air coming from the turbo to the intake manifold. This is gonna cool down that air a lot better. Now, down in a warmer climate like the Carolinas, these intercoolers get heat soaked quite a bit, especially if you're on the track and you're constantly putting those turbos to use. They're gonna be kicking out all that hot air and the intercooler needs to be able to keep up. So that's why we're gonna be installing this. Now, as far as the boost pipe and the charge pipe, these are known BMW issues. The charge pipe especially, it's made out of cheap plastic. The engine bay gets so hot in these BMWs that the plastic gets really brittle and cracks, and these can pop off, creating boost leaks. The boost pipe, not as frequent as the charge pipe, but we're gonna be in there, so I'm gonna install this anyway and just put a nice beefy pipe on it. These pipes are really great quality from FTP Motorsport. I'm really happy with everything that I've seen. The other thing that I like about these is that they come with the gaskets that you need to install. So I'm not sure if this is gonna show up on camera or not, but you'll see like a green O-ring in there on that side, and there's like an orange one on that side. So a lot of these you'll need to take out the OEM O-rings and install them in the new ones. But with the FTP Motorsport ones, you're able to just put these on. You know that the O-rings are in place and that they're fresh new ones as well. They also come with all the clips, the retaining clips, to be able to install it. So you don't need to take those off the OEM ones either. These are literally just take the OEM ones out, put these in, and you can have confidence that they are gonna seal right and you're not gonna get any boost leaks. Now, if you have an automatic transmission, you're gonna wanna take out the sealed nut on here, and you're gonna wanna put on this one. This is like a vacuum line for the automatic transmission. So that's one difference, whether you have manual or automatic. And then what we're gonna do before we install this is we're actually gonna put some Loctite on these threads. I've heard on, not necessarily FTP's charge pipe, but I've heard on other ones where after a while, these nuts kind of come loose and either fall out or, you know, just get loose and you'll get boost leaks. So I'm just gonna put a little dab of Loctite on there just to keep it sticky and not coming out. So now that I've gone over why you should do this upgrade, let me show you how to do the upgrade. Now I'll tell you, this may be different on F33s versus F32s. I know on the F32, there's like a piece of plastic that you have to cut out because this is too tall. It's just like a shield that this runs into. So you just kind of chop it and then you have enough space to put this in. I'm not sure if the F33 has that, but I have seen it on the F32. But we're gonna take off the front bumper anyway because we need to paint the front V-brace to match the M Performance brakes. Now, while we take off the front bumper, this bumper in particular has everything imaginable on it. It has the radar cruise, it's got the parking sensors, it's got the cameras, it's got the washer fluid. So there's gonna be every connection possible that we're gonna be taking off. So take note of that, of what connections are there and what you'll need to unplug. So without further ado, let's get to the install. I'm really excited to get this stuff put in. So where you want to start when removing the front bumper is actually in the wheel wells. You're not going to want to take out the bolts on the top as you might assume at first glance, because if you remove those and then you start taking off all the surrounding supporting bolts, your bumper is going to start to sag, and you don't want any of that. You don't want it to fall off before you get any connections off or anything like that. So we're actually going to remove these 4 8mm, and then there's actually 2 that are straight up right about here that screw directly into the fender. All right, there's 4, and then let's get the 2 that are on the inside. And you'll be able to tell the difference between the 2 types of bolts. The longer ones are the ones that go straight up into the fender. The shorter ones are the ones that hold this lining on. All right. All right, so we got both out and you can see this is now loose. So we're gonna go to the other side and repeat the process. All right, so at this point we can start removing some of the electronics. So on both sides, if you have fog lights, you're just gonna wanna disconnect the fog lights, okay? And then if you have surround view cameras like I do, there's a connection right here. We just remove that. There are also, if you have PDC and the radar sensor, there's actually 2 harnesses here. And so we're just gonna disconnect those. It's just squeeze on both sides. And then there is the washer fluid that's up here. Now, I was trying to get to it with the bumper still on, and I can't get my hand in there, and I don't wanna get water all over the place. So I'm actually gonna remove the bumper and kind of swing it over and then remove the washer fluid connector and just kind of tuck it up into the fender liner so that we don't lose all our washer fluid. All right, so now what you're gonna wanna do is remove all the 8mm that hold the belly pan to the front bumper, as well as all the 8mm holding the belly pan to the car. There's also some of those trim locking nuts in there as well, attaching the bumper. So remove those with like a trim tool or something like that. Also, make sure that you use some glasses, something to cover your eyes, because a lot of times there's dust and debris and leaves and all kinds of crud that are sitting on that belly pan just waiting to fall on your face. Now, the first thing that we're gonna do to remove the front bumper is we're gonna take off this weather stripping in the front here, and you're gonna find a series of Torx bolts. Now, the Torx on the outside are 25, the ones all through the middle are 30, and if you've ever replaced these front grills here, same procedure, because you needed to take these off to get to the clips on the other side. So let's go through, take these off, and we'll get to the next parts to taking off the bumper. All right, so I left one screw in because while I was pulling this out, I noticed that because of my radar cruise, there's actually an extra connection right in the middle that was holding the bumper up. So I'm gonna show you that after I take the bumper off, where that connection is, how to get to it. Basically, you get to it from right underneath. And then I was able to get the washer fluid off. Again, I'll show you that, but I tucked it into the bumper so that it doesn't spray washer fluid all over the place. All right, so I'm gonna just take this last T30 out. And make sure when you're taking this off that you have somewhere for the bumper to go. All right, so if you do have radar cruise, the connection for it is actually right over here. This is the module that runs it. And then what you can see on the front is just the sensor itself. So you're gonna see that you're gonna get hung up by a connection over here. So it's just a squeeze tab, pull it off. And then over on this side, here's the washer fluid. And you just pull up and it'll actually release the spring clip, and you can pull it out. And then I like to just tuck it right under here, right under the fender, and that way you don't lose a whole bunch of fluid. All right, so since we're painting this V-brace, we're gonna take it out. You can wrap it if you want. I wanted to paint mine. I found paint that looks just like the calipers. So what we're gonna do is, to get it out, there's 4 T40s. Now, the one on this side is rather easy, and you wanna just come from the top here, and you'll see it, and we can take it out. The one on the other side is gonna be a little bit more tight, just because that's where the air intake comes out. And then there's going to be 2 of them right up here that you can get to pretty easy. So we're gonna go ahead and get those removed and then just kind of finagle this out.
All right, so now all the bolts holding it in are out. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of see if we can scoot this around and pull it out. All right, so I don't know if you saw what I did there, but basically I slid it that way and that got it out of this little piece that was holding it. And then we can kind of just pull it out. And there we go. So now before we can paint this, I need to clean it up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it with some anti-grease, clean it really, really good, and then I'm gonna paint it and let it dry. Now that we have the belly pan removed, you're gonna find something underneath the car that you're not gonna expect, and it's gonna be unique to the F33. You are gonna find one of these. This is called a stiffening plate, and it's only on the convertibles. You're not gonna get it on the F32, 36, or any of the 3 series. You can add this, and I think it's like 150 bucks. And basically what it does is it adds this stiffening plate as well as the lower V-brace. If you've ever looked at one of the F33s compared to an F33, you'll notice that in front of the intercooler, there's actually another V-brace and it sits kind of opposite. It actually, you know, it looks like a V, it's right side up. That is all part of the same configuration. Now to remove this plate, you're gonna have 2 T60s, which I had to go out and get another socket. I didn't have a T60, it's a big socket. And then there's going to be some 13 millimeters that you're gonna need to remove as well. And so your T60s are gonna be right up here in front, and then your 13 millimeters, they're gonna be right along the edges, and there's gonna be 4 of them. Now I'll post, once we put everything back together, the Torx specs for all of these, but just know you're gonna run into this if you've got the convertible. Pretty cool, add some extra stiffness to the car, so if you've got an F32 and you want a little bit stiffer ride, you might wanna pop one of these on. Now I'm going to paint the lower V-brace, and the reason I'm gonna do that is, again, F32 owners and some of the others, they don't even have that brace. And I thought, it's kind of cool, you know, I'll be unique. I think I've only seen it one other time that somebody's painted it. I also can't paint the intercooler. I really wanted to paint it, you know, to have it say CSF. I wanted it to be in blue to match the calipers, but I can't do that because I got the radar cruise control module right in front of the intercooler. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna paint that V-brace, the blue color, the same color as the upper V-brace so that they're gonna match. And it's not, I don't think it's gonna be overwhelming or anything like that. You're gonna see, you know, just a little bit, probably, I don't know, maybe 4 inches of it on each side, so it's not gonna be huge. But I think it's gonna be a little extra touch that not a lot of other BMW owners are gonna have. So let me show you how to take out that lower V-brace. It's really just another 2 T60s and then 4 13 millimeters to pop that out. And again, totally optional. I just wanted to do it because I had the bumper off already. I figured, why not? Let's be unique. Now to remove this bottom V-brace, it's another 2 of the T60 Torx. Down at the bottom, they're the ones that are on the outsides of the 2 that you removed for the stiffening plate on the bottom. And then up top here, you have 2 13 millimeters, 1 on each side.
And it's basically what connects this bumper to the frame. Now, you don't have to take them all the way out. Basically, you just have to unscrew them because they're actually connected to this brace. Pull them up a little bit and then pull the brace out of the way, and then those can slide back down. Now, you don't have to worry about the bumper falling off. This thing is not gonna fall off. It's a little bit loose, but it's not going anywhere. It's not just gonna fall on the ground. So now once you have the two 13 millimeters on each side removed and the two T60s removed underneath, this bar can now slide out, and there's actually slots underneath where this can come out. And because I have the radar sensor, I have to kind of go around that. If you don't have the radar sensor, it's gonna be a little bit easier for you. But here we go. It is removed, and now I can prep it and paint it. I think it's gonna look awesome.
All right, so the first thing that we're gonna wanna do before we take out the screws is to take out the retaining clips on both the charge pipe and the boost pipe. Now, this has the OEM charge pipe and boost pipe in it, so there's actually some black clips that are behind that hold this metal clip in. Now, the way that you can get that out is you actually wanna pull down on the plastic clips, and there's one on each side of the hose. And I found it beneficial to actually take a tool similar to this, just to give yourself some more leverage. The plastic is a little bit sharp, and I'll show you this once I take it out, what it looks like. But basically, you're just gonna pull down. It's gonna take some force to get it out, but you're gonna wanna pull down and you'll hear it clip, and then you can take out that plastic clip, and then this metal retaining clasp will just come right out.
All right, so when we were releasing those clips before we removed the intercooler, we were talking about these black clips here. And I just wanted to show you quick how that works. So these black clips are fitted right onto here. Okay, and as you can see, they kind of slip in. Show you a better angle here. So they kind of slip in and down. And so when it's like this, we're just pulling those clips down, okay, and then away.
All right, so now what you can do, now that the clip is out, you can take this and this should come right off. And you can see, this retaining clip it's not connected anymore. All right, we're just gonna do that same thing to the other side. There you go. All right, so now we can lower the intercooler by removing those two bolts, one on each side. And remember, wear some glasses so that you don't spray road debris all in your face.
All right, so now that we've gotten the belly pan removed, we've gotten the V-braces removed, we are ready to start dropping the intercooler, taking out the charge pipe and boost pipe, and getting this new stuff installed. Now, the intercooler is held in by two screws on either side, and I'm gonna show you that here in a second. But they are T25 screws. Now, a regular T25, it fits kind of loose. I have a TP25, which is a Torx Plus. Basically, the star pattern on it is a little bit wider. The walls on the edges of the star are just a little bit wider, and it kind of helps with being able to torque stuff down a little bit tighter, but it seems to fit in super tight. So I don't want to strip out those screws. So I'm going to use the TP25. Test it out on yours when you're doing it and just see. Like I said, I don't want to strip out the screw. So we're going to take those screws out. We're going to drop the intercooler after we disconnect the two clips from the hoses, or from the pipes, and take out the charge pipe.
check out how much dust and dirt and just garbage collected right on top of the intercooler. That is insane. That's why you always want to use glasses when you're pulling this out, because all that stuff's gonna go in your eyes when you pull it out.
Look at the size difference between these two. This is the CSF and that's the OEM. This thing is massive. It's gonna be so much more efficient than the OEM. I can't believe that this thing is gonna fit in there. But I've seen it done, so I know it works, I know it's compatible, but it's just insane that this big thing is gonna be able to fit in here and just help us out that much more. It's just so much bigger.
All right, so right attached to the throttle body here, you're gonna have the upper side of the charge pipe. And there's just another retaining clip here, and you could just use like a metal trim tool or screwdriver or something like that, and just pop that right off. This one is not like the one on the underside. So you can just pull this right off. Okay. Okay. This should now be loose. Okay. All right, so now once you get this clip out, you're just gonna wanna disconnect the sensor here, and then there's a rubber grommet that you need to remove, and it's basically you just pull the charge pipe away from where it's hooked onto. And then if you have an automatic transmission, there is a vacuum line that you wanna disconnect, and it's just one of those squeeze clips. So you just squeeze it, pull it out, and that's it. You know what? I've tried getting around this air box, and it's too tight. I need to get in here, and this thing is in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off just to give me a little bit more room. All right, so we got the charge pipe out. I did it by myself, took me about 20 minutes, a whole lot of twisting and turning and maneuvering, and it came out. A lot of it was, you know, these parts that stick out that really hang up on hoses and braces and things like that. One of the hardest pieces was towards the end, there's some braces and linking for the steering, and it just you just gotta kind of finagle it out of there. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this sensor. You're gonna need a T20, just a couple screws. Make sure that you use the screws from the new FTP Motorsports charge pipe when you're installing the sensor. The pipe is threaded for those screws, not these screws, so make sure that you use the ones provided. Okay, so with the FTP Motorsport charge pipe and boost pipe kit, you're gonna get 3 number 40 hose clamps, and you're gonna get a number 48 hose clamp. 2 of the 40s go with the boost pipe, and the 40, so the smaller hose clamp, goes on the smaller side of the charge pipe, and the 48 goes on the larger side of the charge pipe. They use an 8mm to tighten. So we're actually gonna put the lower end of the charge pipe in, and then once that part's seated, we're gonna put the upper end of the charge pipe in. It's just gonna make it a whole lot easier. All right, so let's go get this lower part in, and then we will feed the upper part and hook that up. And I put a little Loctite on these bolts and also for the vacuum line connection. I've heard of these just coming loose, so I figured I'll put a little Loctite on there, just a dab, and then tighten these down. All right, so let's get this on in. And if you have a second person for this, it makes it a whole lot easier. And you're gonna wanna go
down underneath the car and back up again, and just kind of make sure that it's in the right spot. All right, so I got that in right about the spot that I need. So let's see if we can get this in. And again, just be really careful of, you know, the different hoses and things like that. All right, so we got it in, and I am going to just clip this on here. All right, I'm gonna get the vacuum line in. And connect the sensor. All right, so this top portion is in. It is not going anywhere. It is secure. So now we're gonna go ahead and get the bottom section in. It's gonna be really hard to show you, but basically I'm gonna put the retaining clip onto that hose connector and join the two pipes together, tighten it down, and we should be good to go. Now I'm not gonna tighten them down all the way because we still have to fit the intercooler. We gotta make sure that it's in the perfect spot. So we're gonna tighten it enough that it's not gonna come out. All right, so I got the boost pipe out. This is what it looks like, okay? Now this is the end that was in the turbo. And again, black clip needs to come out, and then that retaining clasp needs to be released, and then it comes out. So you can see this is, it's like a soft hose, all right? And it's gonna be good to replace it with this aluminum pipe. It's been known that under high boost, these can develop bubbles. So now that we have a nice solid pipe, that's not gonna happen. Now, we're gonna fit everything together and just pop this on the turbo. Again, we're gonna take these hose clamps, it's an 8mm. We're gonna tighten them around this. There's really no need to have them loose or anything like that, because we're just gonna pop this in, and this is a straight connection. So if we need to kind of turn it for the turbo, this type of clip is gonna allow us to rotate this enough to be able to get it onto the turbo. So I'm not really worried about that. So I'm just gonna stick the hose clamps on, and then we're gonna go and pop on the boost pipe. All right, so I'm gonna go underneath the car and start running the boost pipe up and connecting it to the turbo. Right now, you've got a view of the turbo, so you can see it actually coming up and getting connected. All right, so now you can see it is fully seated and it just clips right in. All right, so now that the two pipes are in, what we can do is we can start putting in the intercooler. Now there's a couple modifications that we're gonna need to make to be able to fit in that new intercooler, and I'm gonna show you that now. All right, so we need to remove the bottom black cowl to be able to fit this new intercooler in because it's so large. Now on each side, next to the headlight, you're gonna see this little black clip here. And what you're gonna wanna do is press in and up, okay? So we're gonna wanna press towards the outside of the car and then pull up, and it's gonna clip out. And you're gonna wanna do that on both sides.
All right, so now that those clips are removed, all we need to do is pull out that black bottom cowl, and then we'll have enough room to put in the intercooler. All right, so one thing that makes it a little easier to get this giant intercooler up and held up underneath the car while I try to, hook everything up and get it situated is to actually use a jack. So this way I don't have to try to hold it up. The jack will hold it up for me and I can kind of finagle it from there and get the piping hooked up and then screw it in place. And remember, when we screw it in place, use the provided screws that CSF gives you. All right, let's get this in. All right, so we got it in. It took forever. It took like probably an hour and a half to get everything lined up, both sides lined up, to get it, just in place. It was a pain in the butt. Even with using the jack was a huge help. It was like my third and fourth hand holding it up there in place. But the way the car's jacked up, it's kind of tilted. And so I still needed to finagle it a little bit more to get it right where it needed to be. Now the screws that came with the intercooler from CSF, they were crap. The washers weren't big enough, and the screw head, I don't know if this is gonna show up on camera or not, but it's stripped out. And it's not like the bit was like, jumping on it or anything like that. It literally, the screw is so soft that it just pushed its way, through the notches and stripped it out. It's complete garbage. So don't use them. I went to the hardware store and I picked up, they were a number 12 sheet metal screw, and it's an inch. And this has a hex head on it, so this isn't gonna strip out. It worked really well. I got a bigger washer too. I couldn't find something that I really wanted. I actually wanted like something that was rectangular. That would have been the best because it would have covered where the intercooler screws in. It would have covered kind of the length of the intercooler, and that would have been a lot better. But what I did is I just got a bigger washer. And so I used the big washer towards the bottom, then I used the washer that came from CSF, and then I used the new screw, and that seemed to hold it in and be tight and not, fall out or anything like that, or not strip out. That seemed to work out well. So while I was test fitting everything, it just kind of fell into place, and I just kind of put it in and I left it in. So I'm sorry that's not on video, but holy cow, does it look awesome. So I'm gonna zoom in here and we'll see if we can get those V-braces on camera. Now I painted them a metallic blue, and I also ran a clear coat over it. I mean, they just look awesome. They match the brakes. They're perfect. Now up here, you're gonna wanna torque these down to 19 Newton meters. It's not a whole lot, but that's what BMW says they want it torqued down to, so that's what we did. Also, this is 19 Newton meters as well, so on each side. And then the bottom is in. It barely fit. I almost say it almost didn't fit. Let me put it that way. This intercooler is so big that bottom brace almost didn't fit in. I haven't put the bottom plate in yet, so we'll see how that fits, how that works out. I feel like it's pushed out just a little bit towards the front, just because that intercooler is so big. But we're gonna try it out. The intercooler is pushed as far back as possible, so we're gonna see if it's flush enough that we can mount the bottom stiffness plate back on. Even if we can't mount the two bolts in the front, we're still gonna mount the rest of them on the stiffness plate. That's still gonna give us some good rigidity.
So I think we'll be good there. All right, so we are gonna go ahead. Let's get the stiffening plate on there. Let's get the bumper back on, and let's get the bottom pan on.
Holy cow, guys. That stiffening plate fit perfect. I think that this intercooler is the largest that you're gonna wanna get if you have an F33. If you got something larger that's a little bit thicker, that brace is not gonna fit underneath, and it's not gonna line up with the stiffening plate underneath. So you're gonna be in trouble. So the CSF fits for sure, not leaving any parts out, everything fits, but that's the biggest you're gonna wanna go. If you have an F32 or something like that without that brace in there, you could totally go bigger, but this is gonna be the biggest that you're gonna wanna get. And make sure when you're putting that stiffening plate up that you just kind of loosely fit it, because you're gonna wanna shift it around forward and sideways and everything to get it all lined up, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and torque these down. I'm gonna put all the torque limits, instead of me saying, you know, what they all are, I'm gonna put them down in the link in the description below, and you guys can check it out. You'll have it. You don't need to keep rewinding or anything like that. So look at the description below. You'll get all the tools used, all the parts used, all the torque values, and for where those torque values relate to. So we're gonna get the stiffening plate all torqued down, and then we're gonna stick the front end on and get the belly pan on, and we will be done, guys. We will be done. All right, let's get back to work.
All right, so as you saw, the F33 is a bit different than a regular 435 when installing the CSF Intercooler and FTP Charge and boost pipes from Keys Motorsports. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to Keys Motorsports for sending out these amazing products. I really enjoyed working with Keys on this project, and I hope to work with them again in the future. As always, I'll be putting links down below to all the tools and parts used in this install, as well as all the torque values that you're gonna need. Now, I gotta say that the V-brace came out awesome. The color was spot on, and when the sun hits them, they really stand out. I'm so glad that I took the time to paint both of them. Now, when I painted them, I did a 4-step process. I first prepped them using a degreaser to get them nice and clean. Then I laid down 3 coats of blue metallic paint, and then a couple of coats of clear coat on the top. Now, I went ahead and ceramic coated them to keep them looking great and to further bring out the color. It really, once I did the ceramic coating, the color really started to pop even more. I'm so glad how they turned out. Now, I took the car out for a test drive after installing the upgrades, and I did notice that it seemed a bit quicker. I noticed that there was less turbo lag and an increased throttle response. Now, these upgrades, according to the manufacturer, should give you between 15 and 25 horse, depending on the tune that you're running. Overall, I'm really happy to have these upgrades in, and not only do they enable me to start tuning the car, but I now have the peace of mind that I'm not gonna start cracking pipes and having boost leaks. Now, if you found this video helpful, be sure to subscribe, comment down below, hit that like button, smash it if that's what you're into, and I'll see you on the next one.